Chris Graham here for Trailblazer RV with a new RV orientation on this 2020 Venture RV SportTrek Touring Edition 322 VRL. It's a little windy today, so hopefully the audio is coming through okay. But we're going to start here at the front of the trailer, work around the outside of the trailer. I'll show you where everything is and how everything works. Then we'll go inside and do the same inside. So right here at the front of the trailer, you've got your propane and battery systems. To access your propane tanks, you can open up the flap on top of the cover or just lift the cover right off the tanks. And these are dual 30-pound propane tanks. Both of these are full right now, and an automatic switchover propane regulator. So right now you can see the regulator pointing to this tank. That makes this the selected tank and this the reserve tank. And the sight glass in the middle there showing red. That shows no propane flowing. As we open that valve, that sight glass will turn from red to clear to indicate the propane is flowing. What we recommend is opening both of these valves. I always open the valve all the way. That way the propane regulator will empty the selected bottle first, then automatically switch over to start to pull from the reserve bottle. Once that happens, this sight glass will turn red, so you know the first bottle's empty, and you can switch over to the second bottle, remove the first bottle to go and refill it without having to shut down your propane system. Behind that is your battery. This is a 12-volt Group 31 deep cycle RV battery. Pretty simple. Red lead goes to positive, black to negative. It is a flooded wet cell battery, so it requires a little bit of maintenance. Underneath this sticker, if you peel this sticker off, you'll find 6 caps. You can open up those caps once a year and check the fluid level in that battery. If any of those cells look to be a little bit low, you can top that up with some distilled water and put a good charge on the battery. We recommend removing the battery for winter storage, storing it inside somewhere where it's not going to freeze. And if you're just putting it into storage for short periods of time in season, you can disconnect the battery by turning off the battery disconnect switch here in behind. So green is connected, red is disconnected. I've also installed an integral sway equalizer hitch on this model. The hitch head and bars are inside the front storage compartment of the trailer. Make sure you reference our towing with an integral sway equalizer hitch video for instructions on how to set that up. So around the side, we've got access to some front storage compartments. This is where you'll find that hitch. We've just stowed it there for you. You'll also find in here a, over on the other side, I'll show you, is where your handles are for your stabilizer jacks and for your front power jack. As we move around the side of the trailer, this is where your sewer termination happens. So when you go to dump your holding tanks, hook the sewer hose up to here. We supply a new sewer hose. It's 20 feet and stored inside the rear bumper. So attach the sewer hose here. Other end goes into the ground, and then you've got 2 valves here with handles sticking through the frame. A black valve and a gray valve. Always pull your black valve first. That's your sewage holding tank. And then once that's finished draining, you can close that and pull the gray valve. That's your gray water, your sink and shower water. And that'll kind of flush all of that sewage content through the hose. Once you've closed those, you can remove the sewer hose, flush it out, and stow it back in the rear bumper. Here at your running gear, just a couple of things to cover. Your tires are inflated to 80 psi. and that's stamped on the sidewall of the tire, 80 psi cold. And with RV tires, go ahead and run them right at that 80 psi. Your lug nuts are also torqued to 100 foot-pounds, and with RV wheels, we recommend periodically retorquing those lug nuts. If you don't have a torque wrench, just use a tire iron and make sure that they're good and tight. Also, recommend repacking wheel bearings every few years. You'll find you have easy lube axles on this model, so if you pop this center cap off of the center of the hub, you'll find a grease zerk, and you can use a grease gun to grease your inner and outer wheel bearings. That doesn't eliminate the need, though, to repack wheel bearings. It just prolongs the intervals. So instead of doing it every year, maybe you repack wheel bearings every 3 to 5 years, depending on how much you travel. Here at the back, we have a couple of plumbing features. This is where you'll find your outside shower. So pretty simple, hot and cold water access out here. And that shower head will come up to about this high. You've got your city water connection and your fresh tank fill. So if you're just filling your fresh water tank to go camping away from water hookups, you can do that from here with a regular garden hose. Or even better than that, what we recommend is one of those white drinking water specific hoses, so you don't get that plasticky garden hose taste in your drinking water. You can also, if you're at a full service site, use that hose to hook up to the city water connection. Then you don't need to fill your freshwater tank, and you don't need to use your water pump. The RV will just operate from the pressurized city water. When you're doing that, we recommend using a water pressure regulator. It's just a little brass piece about that long, goes on the end of your hose to maintain a proper operating water pressure in the system. Beneath the city water connection is your sewer tank flush system. Don't get these two confused. The sewer tank flush is for when you're dumping that black holding tank. You can hook a hose up to here, preferably a different hose than what you use for your city water, and it'll spray out the inside of the tank. So it'll spray off the walls of the tank, and the monitor probes keep your monitor panel reading accurately. And then right here at the back, this is where your power cord will attach. I'll show you that power cord when we get around to the front, but it's a 50 amp power cord, and we supply both the 50 amp to 30 amp dog bone adapter and the 30 to 15 amp park adapter. Here at the back of the trailer, you've got your folding cargo tray. The cargo tray is rated for 200 pounds, and best to, when you're traveling with it unloaded, best to leave it in the folded up position. And your sewer hose stored here inside the rear bumper. Right here on the camping side, this is your fridge vent. So you can open this up to access the back of the fridge for cleaning and repair work if you ever need, but mostly this is just a vent. The fridge needs some air movement to work properly. Another exhaust vent here, this is for your furnace. The only thing to know about this one is that that exhaust vent does get very hot when the furnace is operating, so just make sure that people know not to touch this. And above that is your hot water tank. And the hot water tank can be accessed by removing the door. A few things to cover in here. This is a gas electric model hot water tank, so you can run it on propane or electricity. If you're running the tank on electricity, there's a little black rocker switch here in the bottom corner that'll need to be turned on. I leave that off for now so that you don't accidentally start up the tank when you plug into power. If you do want to use it on electricity, make sure you turn this on. There's also two black reset buttons out here. If you ever overheat the tank, primarily that happens if you start up the tank with no water in it, you'll trip these ECOs. So the one on the left is for electricity, the one on the right is for propane. If you ever start up your hot water tank and it doesn't seem to be working, your water's not getting hot, you can come out here and press those two to reset that. The other thing that's worth noting in this hot water tank is down here at the bottom, you've got your drain plug. So it's a 1 1/8 inch socket to remove that. And on the end of that plug is a rod about this long. That's your anode rod. So the purpose of the anode rod is to corrode over time to help preserve the inside lining of the tank. It can get to be quite pitted and corroded looking before it needs to be replaced, but once it's down to just the tiny little steel bar in the center, then you'll need to replace that. Before you pull this anode rod out to drain the tank, always make sure you bleed the pressure off of the tank using the pressure relief valve. Otherwise, that tank's sitting at about 40 psi and it'll spray when you pull that out. Your awning, it's a little too windy, I think, to demonstrate the awning today, but it's a power awning controlled from the control panel just inside the door. It's height adjustable, so you can use these adjustments here they're on both arms to adjust the height of your awning. That can be done from the out position or from the in position, but you might find that it's easier to do from the in position because it's up quite high when the awning is extended. This trailer has the 4-corner power stabilizing jacks. As you're aware, there's a shortage on power stabilizing jack motors. So we will get you 2 sets of power stabilizing jack motors, but they're not currently available. As soon as they're available, we'll put them aside for you or ship them to you. When you go to install those, the motors are going to mount just in the center of the cross frame stabilizer jack. The motor itself slides over the drive shaft and hooks up to the 2 sets of wires, just a positive and negative wire there. Real simple install, and we can take you through that when the motors come in as well. Spare tire is also underneath here. It's worth noting that. So the spare tire can crank down from this 3/4 inch drive right here on the frame, and that is incidentally the same size as your stabilizer jack crank handle, so you can use your stabilizing jack crank to both raise and lower your stabilizer jacks and to crank down your spare tire should you ever need to. The other handle inside here is a manual override for your power front jack. Obviously this works off the battery to raise and lower the front of the trailer, but if you ever have some type of catastrophic failure with that, you can open up this plug on the top and insert the jack to run it manually. I think that does it around the outside, so follow me inside. We'll get out of the wind where you can hear me a little better. So here we are inside of the 2020 SportTrek Touring Edition 322 VRL. We're going to start right up here in the top corner where you've got your central control panel. So this is where you'll control your slide outs. To extend the slide, press and hold the out button until you hear the ratcheting sound. That means it's fully extended. To retract it, same thing, press and hold the in button until you hear the ratcheting sound. You've got the main slide here and the bedroom slide, both controlled from this panel. The awning, we talked about outside, and to extend the awning, press and hold the out button. To bring it in, press and hold the in button. And you can stop that at any point. It doesn't have to be all the way in or out. Then you've got some light switches here. The switch that's turned on is your main ceiling lights. And then these 2 backlit switches are for yard lights. You've got your amber yard light just outside the door, and this one is for the omnidirectional awning light, which is inside the roller tube for the awning. So you have to have that awning fully extended to see the awning light. leave that one on. The other switch here is for your blue accent lighting, both in this cabinet and at your stove backsplash. Next to that, we have the entertainment center. So the stereo system controls both your inside and outside speakers. I just like to point out that you've got two different speaker zones here. Zone 1 is inside speakers, zone 2 is outside speakers. So make sure if you're using this, especially for playing a DVD on the TV, make sure you've got the zone 2 speakers turned off. Otherwise, you'll be playing your sound on your outside speakers as well as the inside. The TV can pull out to attach and disconnect components. When you push that in, push it just a little harder than you think, and it'll lock in place for travel. Here in the kitchen, we've got your fridge. This is an 8 cubic foot gas electric fridge, so it can run on propane or electricity. When you turn that on, what I recommend is set the mode to A for automatic. It'll always check for electricity first. If it has electricity, the fridge will run on that. If it doesn't have electricity, it'll switch over and automatically start up the propane. You can override the automatic to only run on electricity or only run on propane, but there's not very many situations you'd want to do that. So we recommend just leaving it in automatic. You may find that the fridge cools down a little bit faster on propane. So that's one instance where you might want to override the automatic to run it on propane. This one also has some temperature adjustments, 1 being the warmest, 5 being the coldest. We usually set it on 3 or 4, but you may find you need to adjust that a little bit depending on ambient conditions. Here inside the fridge is where you'll find your keys. You've got 2 sets of keys there. The purple key does both the door latch, deadbolt, and baggage compartment doors. The black key, the only thing that this opens is your outside shower compartment. To shut the fridge off, press and hold the on button until the light goes out. Your stovetop is propane, so you can turn these 3 burners to the flame symbol and then use the piezo sparker to ignite all 3 burners. I always recommend doing that anytime you switch out a propane bottle or have your propane disconnected for any reason. The first thing you should do once you've reinstalled the bottle is come in here and just light all 3 burners. That way, if you've got any air in your propane lines, you can bleed that off using the burners, and your automatic appliances like your fridge, furnace, and hot water tank will have no problem starting up. You've got 1 pilot light in the trailer, and that's in the oven. So to light that, turn it over to the pilot emblem, press in and hold on the knob, and right underneath here is where that pilot is going to light. This one, you can use the piezo sparker for the stove to light the pilot as well. And sometimes you have to hold that knob down for a few seconds because it takes a while to bleed the air through there. But once you see a blue flame there, continue to hold that knob down for 5 or 10 seconds for the thermocouple to heat up. And once you release that and the flame stays on, you can turn it up to temperature and light the oven burner. Once you're finished using the oven, you can turn it back to the pilot setting and just leave the pilot burn, or turn it right off and relight the pilot next time you use the oven. Underneath your sink is where you'll find your water pump. And there's a panel here protecting the water pump from items underneath the sink in transit. But if you want to do your own winterizing, you can access your water pump from right behind this panel, and you'll see that the siphon line, the antifreeze siphon line, is already on there. So to use the antifreeze siphon line, shut off the bottom line going into the tank and open up the top line, and then you can put that siphon line directly into your jug of antifreeze and pump antifreeze directly from the jug through your water lines. What else? Here on the edge of this cabinet you have your safe tech box. So you've got 110 volt and 12 volt chargers inside there. And right behind me on the wall is your thermostat. So this controls both your heating and cooling systems. We're not plugged into power right now, so we won't be able to actually demonstrate the air conditioning. But to run the air conditioning, turn the system over to cool and set your desired temperature with the thermostat. Then you've got two different settings here for your fan. You've got automatic per the thermostat, or just always on, and high and low fan settings for each. For the furnace, there is no fan settings. There's only one fan speed for the furnace. So turn it over to heat and slide the thermostat up to your desired temperature. The furnace will come on and that fan will run for 15 or 20 seconds before the burner actually lights up. Once it comes to temperature, the burner will go out and the fan will continue to run for up to a minute just to go through its cycle. I'll turn this off for now. Whenever you're not at the trailer, leave it in the off position rather than just sliding the thermostat all the way over. If it gets cool in the evening, that thermostat will be trying to kick the furnace on, wasting your propane and battery power. Below that is where you'll find your power converter. So this is the power center for the trailer. This is where you'll find all of your 110 volt breakers and all of your 12 volt fuses. You've got all 15 amp fuses in this trailer, so not a bad idea to have some spare 15 amp fuses. The other thing that this does is it acts as the battery charger. So it may make a little bit of a humming or a buzzing sound sometimes, especially when your battery is very low when you're plugged in. Not anything to worry about. That's just the battery charger that you're hearing. In the bathroom, a few things to cover in here. You've got a notable power outlet here. This is your GFI outlet with test and reset buttons on it, just like the one in the bathroom in your home. But in an RV, this is wired in series with several of your other power outlets. So if you trip the GFI, you'll lose power at all of your power outlets. You can just come in here, press the reset button, and that'll reset the whole circuit. Next to that, you'll find your monitor panel. So this is where you can check the level of your battery, which as you can see is completely charged now. Your fresh tank, which is completely empty, gray tank, completely empty, and black tank, all completely empty. This is also where you can turn on your water pump. So if you're using water from your fresh water holding tank, turn that pump on and you can just leave that switch on. The pump will toggle on and off as it needs to. And you've got two water heater switches here. One for propane and one for electricity. Switch on the right is for electricity. If you are running your hot water heater on electricity, remember there's that second switch on the outside of the tank that will also need to be in the on position. Most of the time you'll run your water heater on propane. And if you turn that switch on, you'll see the red fault light comes on. In a moment when that tank starts up, that light should go out. You'll hear the DSI spark when that happens. There we go. So now the tank is running on propane. If for any reason that light didn't go out, or if it only went out briefly and came back on, that means your tank didn't light. The first thing to do is just shut off the switch, give it a few seconds and let it try again. But if it continues to happen, that's when you might go outside and press those two black reset buttons on the outside of the tank to reset the ECOs. Anytime you're using the sewer system in your RV, you'll want to use a good potent RV toilet chemical. The chemical's available in powder, tablet, or liquid form. and you can add chemical right into the toilet bowl. So when you add chemical to the tank, pour the chemical into the bowl, press halfway down on the foot flush to fill the bowl with water. Once you've got the bowl full of water and chemical, you can dump the whole works down into the tank. It's important to note that that chemical takes a little bit of water to activate it. So anytime you put chemical into your tank, make sure to put some water down with it. Also here in the bathroom is where you'll find your Levelmate Pro control panel. Make sure you check out our Levelmate Pro video for instructions on how to set that up the first time to level your phone and check the to level your trailer and check the level of your trailer using the app on your phone. And here in the bedroom, just a couple more things to cover. You've got an emergency exit window at the head of the bed. It's a little bit of a difficult mechanism, so I recommend just practicing that a little bit. The window hinges from the top, so you can push it open and just latch it for airflow, or it'll hinge all the way up for emergency exit, and just grab the red tab on the screen and pull the screen out. And you've got here in this corner your closet. This is where you'll find your washer dryer hookups, as well as this is where you'll find access to the back of the hot water tank. You can remove these screws here to pull this panel off to access the back of your hot water tank, and you'll find two valves on there. A valve on the cold line on the bottom going into the tank, and a valve on the hot line on the top coming out of the tank. If you close both of those valves, you can isolate that hot water tank or bypass that hot water tank so that you can run plumbing antifreeze through your cold water lines as well as your hot water lines without filling that tank with antifreeze. And if you're planning to do your own winterizing, make sure you check out our winterizing instructional video as well. Your TV backer location is here in the wall if you want to install a TV in the bedroom. The TV backer is metal, so you can find it with a magnet. And I always caution people that sometimes this sticker is not in exactly the right spot. So use a magnet to locate that TV backing before you screw into the wall. Don't use anything more than about a 3/4 inch long screw. The wall's only just over an inch thick, so use 3/4 inch screws or smaller to mount the TV. And I think for the most part that covers it. Hopefully you've learned something about the 2020 SportTrek Touring Edition 322 VRL. If you have any questions, you can always get a hold of us at Trailblazer or check our website, trailblazerrv.com. Thanks.